If you remember, a few days ago, we went through a poem called This is Faith. And I've been reading it and just thinking about it. And I kind of thought to myself that it lends itself to a rather shallow reading if you wanted to read it that way and reinforce the idea that faith is believing in something with no reason or believing in something with no support, just kind of a blind faith, as it were. And I've never subscribed to that idea of faith, and I don't think it's necessary to subscribe to such an idea of faith if one is doing a practice and one is investigating truth within oneself. So I thought I'd kind of share some ideas that have gone through my own mind and some considerations that have gone through my own thinking as I read the poem. Just a few summaries. In the first section, where he says to walk where there is no path, to breathe where there is no air, to see where there is no light. This is faith. This is the transcendent state. This is the knowledge of the moment being self-contained. It's the release of past and future, so that there is no path because there's nowhere to go. Thou art that. You are this eternal fullness that you're seeking. And it is transcendent to the senses, which means the senses are secondary to you. They are not you, this separation of body and mind. And faith has to do with that original you, that you before the manifestation, that you from which that which you think is you emits. He goes on to cry out in the silence of the night, and hearing no echo, believe and believe again and again. This is that notion to cry out in the silence of the night. The silence of the night is when the senses are asleep, when the world is still and has gone into that, Turiya state. It's quiet and dark and no longer pulling you out of your seat of Satchitananda, your seat of contentment, where there is no need and there is no desire. To cry out in that space, that manifestation of this knowing your nature, this cry out, in longing for that union, for that highest understanding of things, and to do it again and again, to not let go, not to be destroyed by your confusion or by your ignorance, but that sustained longing, that sustained effort that is necessary for purifying the mind and purifying the heart to bring us home, to hold pebbles and to see jewels, to raise sticks and to see forests, to smile with weeping eyes. This is faith. This is knowing that ultimately all that you see is that. It is the divine's love letter. It is the divine manifestation, your reflection of the true self within. It's infinitely valuable. Why? Because it is that reflection of divine love, of the divine self, of the beloved, as it were. To smile with weeping eyes, yes. Those are tears of joy, tears of devotion, that Thakur says come from the outside of the eye and not the inside of the eye. Those kinds of tears, the tears of ecstasy. To say, God, I believe when others deny. I hear when there is no answer. I see though naught is seen. This is faith. This is that idea that it's not of the mind. That faith, that this which we know is a knowledge prior to mind. It's not a thought castle. It's not in the relative world, which is the mind. We've talked endlessly about how the mind is a relative machine, that it needs those three components, subject, object, and experience between the two, in order to contain or to conceive of something. Well, this cannot be held in mind as a thought castle. This cannot be a concept built on the relative nature of the input of senses, or thought itself. This is faith. And the fierce love in the heart, the savage love that cries, hidden thou art, yet here. Veil thy face and mute thy tongue, yet I see thee and I hear thee, love. This is that notion of, it's this deep intuitive feeling, and it has to be an intuitive understanding because you cannot see your own face, and yet you intuit its existence through reflection, through seeing it in the water, through seeing it in a mirror, through seeing others' reactions to it. That's the only way you know of your face. Well, knowing your divine nature is very much the same process. It's this intuition. As you see love in others, as you experience love in relationships and love in joy and love in objects, to see that that is a reflection of something inherent in you. This is that savage love that cries hidden, because it can only be known through reflection. It can only be known or intuited or seen or experienced, I guess. That's the manifestation of it. That's the power of God versus the stillness of God, the absolute of the divine. You know, milk and its whiteness, heat and fire. That's how Thakur talked about it, Sri Ramakrishna. He says, you know, that you can't think of the whiteness of milk without thinking of milk. You can't experience the heat of the fire without knowing fire. It's that kind of relationship. Beat me down to the bare earth, you know, yet I rise and love thee, love. This is faith. That it is that love that conquers all understanding. That once you get a taste of that love, there is nothing in this world that can diminish your search, your quest for making it your very own, for coming to that knowledge of the highest self. Faith is an intuition. It's an intuition that the idea of immortality that you bring into this world, that you could not have gotten from this world, comes because it belongs to you. Faith is the intuition that this infinity that you've brought into the world, that cannot be learned from the world, is your nature that you own and have brought here with you. Faith is this inner intuition of this eternal relationship between the absolute self and the manifested self, that you are that confluence of love between the material and the spiritual.